Welcome to Indonesia. A land between drought and endless rain, between ancient wooden villages and gigantic metropolises. Between fire and ice. Here, where dragons roam the beaches, an incredible biodiversity unfolds. "17,000 islands, hundreds of cultures, and countless worlds within a single country. These are the wonders of Indonesia." The world's largest archipelago stretches more than 5,000 kilometers along the equator. Here, not only two oceans, but also two continents meet, giving rise to one of the most extraordinary regions on our planet. More than 120 volcanoes rise directly above tropical rainforests, while on Papua, glaciers exist near the equator. At the same time, the country is home to one of the greatest levels of biodiversity on Earth. In dense jungles live orangutans, rare birds of paradise, and countless animal species found nowhere else on the planet. Off the coasts stretches the Coral Triangle, the most species-rich underwater area on Earth. Yet few places feel stranger than the Komodo Islands, where enormous monitor lizards move silently along the beaches like dragons from prehistoric times. Indonesia is also one of the most diverse countries on Earth. More than 280 million people, hundreds of ethnic groups, and over 700 languages shape the country. On the island of Java lie gigantic metropolises full of skyscrapers and traffic, while in remote regions, centuries-old tribal cultures still exist. Indonesia feels as though the entire Earth has assembled itself within a single archipelago. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when planning a trip here. We give you an overview of the absolute must-see spots and hidden treasures. Our starting point today is Java. Between mist-shrouded mountains, colonial streets, and vast volcanic landscapes, Java displays perhaps the most fascinating blend Indonesia has to offer. Raw, spiritual, chaotic, and yet full of beauty. Bandung sits high enough that the heat of Java suddenly softens. The city's streets are full of mopeds, street stalls, and flickering signs. Yet just a few kilometers further, hills of deep green tea plantations begin, rolling like waves across the landscape. Early in the morning, damp mist hangs between the rows of tea bushes, while workers move slowly through the fields, and only the rustling of leaves can be heard. Within the city, colonial Bandung keeps appearing. Old Dutch buildings with crumbling white facades stand between modern cafes and concrete blocks. Some streets feel almost European, until the smell of fried garlic, cloves, and sweet coffee reminds you where you are. Bandung lives by contrasts. Especially around the Tangkuban Perahu volcano, the atmosphere shifts abruptly. The earth looks grey and open, as though it has just been torn apart. Sulfur vapor drifts over the crater, trees disappear into the mist, and the ground crunches underfoot like burnt ash. Yogyakarta, further to the east, is considered the cultural center of the island, and it quickly becomes clear why. Here, the old Javanese tradition lives on to this day, and at its heart, the kraton. That palace of the Sultan where ceremonies, traditional dances, and classical music still take place. The city is also famous for its batik art. In small workshops, intricate fabrics are created with complex patterns that have often been passed down through generations. At the same time, Yogyakarta feels young and creative. Street art, small galleries, and modern cafes define many of the city's neighborhoods. The traditional markets become especially lively in the evenings. Among street kitchens, spices, and colorful stalls, you experience the real everyday life of Java. The scent of local food fills the air everywhere, while merchants and musicians fill the streets. As soon as the gamelan music rings through the warm streets at night, Yogyakarta reveals its special soul. The cuisine of Java in general is among the most diverse in Indonesia. Small street kitchens stand everywhere, from which the aromas of spices, grilled meat, and sweet dishes rise. Food is an important part of daily life here. Particularly well known is gudeg, a traditional dish made from young jackfruit, cooked for hours with coconut milk and palm sugar. It is often served with rice, egg, or spiced chicken. Coffee also has a long tradition on Java. In many small cafes, strong Javanese coffee is served, a variety that has been world famous since the colonial era. At the night markets, you'll also find countless sweets made from coconut, sticky rice, and palm sugar. Among steaming street stalls, motorcycle noise, and flickering neon lights, the real Java often reveals itself only after sunset. A short distance outside the city stands Borobudur, the largest Buddhist temple in the world. The enormous complex was built more than 1,000 years ago and still looks today like a stone monument from a forgotten era. Surrounded by jungle, rice fields, and volcanoes, the temple rises from the landscape like a giant pyramid. Borobudur is especially famous for its sunrises. Long before dawn, visitors climb the dark steps while thick mist lies over the valleys. Slowly, the sky turns orange, and between the clouds, the silhouettes of the surrounding volcanoes appear. The temple walls are covered with thousands of reliefs, telling stories from the life of Buddha. On the upper levels stand the famous bell-shaped stupas, inside which Buddha statues sit hidden. When absolute silence lies over the temple grounds in the morning and mist drifts through the stone figures, Borobudur feels almost like a lost city from another world. No less spectacular is Prambanan, Indonesia's largest Hindu temple complex. Even from a distance, the tall stone towers rise into the sky, almost resembling a gigantic fortress from an ancient legend. The complex was built in the 9th century and is dedicated to the Hindu gods Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. Particularly impressive here, too, are the detailed stone reliefs depicting scenes from the Ramayana epic. Between the temples, the narrow paths and dark shadows feel almost mystical. By sunset at the latest, when darkness slowly descends over the complex, Prambanan looks like a stage from a bygone era. High in the center of Java lies the Dieng Plateau, a raw volcanic landscape full of mist, craters, and ancient temple ruins. The abode of the gods feels exactly as its name promises. Early in the morning, thick mist already lies over the hills and volcanic fields. Sulfur vapor rises from the earth, small craters bubble between the mountains, and the cold air is entirely different from the tropical climate of many other parts of Indonesia. Amid this surreal landscape stand some of Java's oldest Hindu temples. The small stone buildings look almost lost between mist and volcanoes, evoking a long-forgotten time. The temples often disappear suddenly into the thick haze and reappear a few seconds later. An atmosphere emerges here that feels more like a forgotten highland kingdom than a tropical island. Mount Bromo is one of the most famous volcanoes in Indonesia. In the middle of a vast sea of ash, the active volcano rises from a barren landscape of black sand and volcanic earth. Smoke constantly rises from the crater, a reminder that Bromo is still active to this day. Long before sunrise, many visitors make their way to the viewpoints around the volcano. As the darkness slowly fades, the outlines of the enormous ash sea and the surrounding mountains gradually emerge. Through the mist, horses often move across the black plain, while small groups slowly approach the crater. The sounds of the wind and the deep rumbling of the volcano intensify the almost surreal atmosphere. Those who travel to the volcano from the north of the island discover one of Indonesia's most impressive waterfalls, the Madakaripura waterfall. Enormous masses of water plunge from great heights, while a fine spray envelops the entire surroundings. Around the main waterfall, countless smaller streams flow directly out of the rock faces, making the gorge look like a giant natural temple. Thanks to the permanent moisture, lush greenery grows everywhere. Mosses, ferns, and tropical plants cover the dark rocks, while rays of light filter only occasionally through the narrow opening of the gorge, which is precisely why Madakaripura feels almost unreal. Even more spectacular is the Ijen volcano. In the middle of the night, visitors climb the dark volcano while a strong smell of sulfur hangs in the air. The real spectacle only begins inside the crater. There, Ijen's famous blue lava flames appear. Escaping sulfur gases create glowing blue fires that, in complete darkness, look almost supernatural. Hardly any other place on Earth has a similar natural phenomenon. At sunrise, the enormous crater lake gradually becomes visible. The water glows an intense turquoise, but contains extremely strong acid and is counted among the most dangerous lakes on Earth. Around the crater, sulfur miners carry heavy loads up the mountain, often under extreme conditions and without adequate protection. Between toxic smoke, black rock, and the blue flames, the entire volcano feels almost apocalyptic. The finale of the island is naturally its capital, the largest city in the world, Jakarta. Counting the entire Jabodetabek region, approximately 42 million people live in Jakarta alone, roughly equivalent to half the population of Germany. Jakarta is the complete opposite of Java's quiet volcanic landscapes. The capital of Indonesia is loud, gigantic, and constantly in motion. Millions of people live here between skyscrapers, endless streets, and enormous shopping centers. Modern skylines define many districts, especially at night when the high-rises and rooftop bars glow above the city. At the same time, historic neighborhoods like Kota Tua still exist in the middle of the chaos. There, old colonial buildings and squares recall Jakarta's Dutch past. Between modern streets and old mosques, the real life of the city unfolds, especially at night. Night markets fill the alleyways with music, smoke, and the scent of countless dishes. Jakarta often feels chaotic and overwhelming. Yet it is precisely this endless interplay of crowds, neon lights, prayers, and traffic that makes the city one of the most intense places in Southeast Asia. In the highlands of Sumatra, a quiet expanse suddenly opens up. After hours of winding roads, dense forests, and small villages, Lake Toba lies before you like a forgotten sea between volcanic mountains. The largest volcanic lake on Earth was formed by an explosion so enormous that it once changed the climate of the entire planet. Today, nothing about it feels threatening. The water lies calm between the green slopes, fishing boats drift slowly across the mirrored surface, and in the mornings, mist hangs over the lake as if the landscape was still asleep. In the middle of the lake lies Samosir, an island within a lake on an island group in the middle of the ocean. There, the Batak culture shapes life to this day. The houses wear their curved roofs like horns raised toward the sky, and from open windows, traditional music sometimes drifts out over the lake. Everything feels slower here, and that is precisely why the place stays in the memory. Bukit Lawang, north of the lake, begins with a river. Brown water presses between rocks, Children drift downstream on inflated tires, and over the narrow bridges, damp clothing hangs in the tropical heat. The village itself looks unremarkable. Yet, directly behind the last houses of the village, the rainforest begins. The jungle swallows sounds differently. The air is heavy, warm, and full of life. And then, suddenly, movement. An orangutan appears between the branches, slowly, almost silently. The orange fur glows between the dark foliage as it moves through the trees with a calm that feels almost human. For a moment, everything stands still. Nobody speaks. You only hear the dripping of water from leaves and the distant shrieking of cicadas. Bukit Lawang does not feel like a wildlife park, more like a brief visit to a world that was not really built for humans. Slightly to the west, Gunung Leuser National Park is the last place on Earth where orangutans, tigers, rhinoceroses and elephants still share the same forest. A vast area of mountains, swamps and endless rainforest stretches across northern Sumatra. Out here, time loses its meaning. And yet, despite this wilderness, there is a constant sense of fragility. Because all around the national park, palm oil plantations are moving ever closer. The contrast could hardly be greater. There, geometric rows of cleared land; here, an ancient forest full of sounds, shadows, and life. East of Sumatra lies another remarkable island, Kalimantan, where life moves especially slowly. Many routes here lead not along roads, but along rivers. Narrow boats glide for hours through brown water, past dense jungle whose branches arch like tunnels over the river. In the interior live communities of the Dayak, the indigenous people of Borneo. In some villages, traditional longhouses made of wood stand directly on the riverbank. Children play barefoot on narrow jetties, and in the evenings, smoke rises from small fires into the heavy air. At the same time, chainsaws and mining projects push ever deeper into the forest. Kalimantan lives between two worlds, between ancient rivers and modern exploitation, between silence and the sound of vanishing forests. East of Bali, the mood changes. The traffic becomes quieter, the roads narrower, the calls to prayer carry further across the fields. Lombok is often compared to Bali, but that comparison falls short. The island does not feel like an alternative. It feels like its own rhythm. Fewer music-filled cafes, fewer scooter columns, fewer people photographing everything. Instead, small villages with dusty streets and mosques with green domes, while mist still hangs over the rice fields. In the north of the island, the landscape grows denser. The road leads past banana plants and palms into damp forest, until suddenly the roar of the Sendang Gili waterfalls becomes audible. Water plunges there over dark rocks into the depths. A fine spray hangs between the trees, and even at midday the light feels cool and subdued. Above everything rises Mount Rinjani. Even from a distance, the volcano dominates the island. The ascent of Mount Rinjani often begins at night. Torches move like small points of light up the mountain, while black volcanic sand crunches underfoot. With sunrise, the landscape changes suddenly. The first light hits the crater walls, mist slowly draws out of the valleys, and far below appears the crater lake Segara Anak, still, dark blue, and almost unreal between the grey volcanic slopes. Beside the lake, steam rises from smaller volcanic vents as though the mountain were still breathing. The hike is among the most demanding in Indonesia. The ground slips underfoot, heat alternates with cold wind, and many sections feel endless. The volcano does not feel like a viewpoint. It feels like something immense that you slowly move through. Mount Rinjani, therefore, feels less like a classic travel destination, more like a border between a tropical island world and a raw, almost otherworldly landscape of stone, ash, and fire. Directly off the coast of Lombok, the Gili Islands await. Especially beautiful is Gili Trawangan, a small island with no cars, no motorcycles, no constant drone of traffic. Instead, you hear the clip-clop of small horse-drawn carriages on sandy paths. Along the coast, you also have the opportunity to ride horses into the sunset. During the day, the island feels almost weightless. The water shimmers turquoise far out into the open sea. Turtles glide slowly over coral reefs, and directly beneath the surface stand the famous underwater statues, still in the clear water. Over time, corals have grown across the figures. Small fish swim between the stone bodies, as though they have long since become part of the sea. As soon as the sun sets, Gili Trawangan changes. Beach bars set out strings of lights in the sand, and music drifts across the coast. Further to the east, one of the world's most spectacular nature parks reveals itself. From the air, Komodo National Park looks like a landscape from another age. Small, rugged islands lie scattered across the open sea. Between them, bays shimmering in bright turquoise, while bare hills appear almost golden in the sun. Yet, despite this beauty, something raw hangs over the islands, something untamed: the Komodo dragon. Here, the world's largest lizards move slowly through dry grass and dusty paths, as though they have barely changed since ancient times. Their heavy gait looks sluggish, almost tired, until you see their eyes. Calm, alert. They occur exclusively in Indonesia, essentially only on 5 islands. Well over half live on the national park's main island. They grow up to 3 meters long, weigh almost 100 kilograms, and evoke prehistoric creatures. They possess a venomous bite, eat almost anything, and can smell blood from several kilometers away. An absolute highlight of the Eastern Islands. And right next to it, Padar Island, one of those places that looks almost unreal in photos. And yet the island feels even more extreme in person. The ascent begins dry and dusty. Small stone steps lead up the hill, while the sun already beats mercilessly on the open landscape early in the morning. The famous viewpoint is considered the most iconic photo spot in Indonesia. People sit silently on the rocks because even conversation suddenly feels unimportant. Especially just after sunrise, the landscape changes constantly. Padar Island lives by its view, but also by that feeling of standing, for a moment, above a landscape that appears simultaneously peaceful and completely wild. Flores, in the Far East, feels rougher than many other parts of the country. Roads wind for hours through green hills, behind which steep volcanic slopes suddenly appear. Much of it feels remote. This is especially evident at Way Rebo. The traditional village lies hidden high in the mountains and can only be reached on foot. The path leads for hours through cloud forest, past coffee plantations and damp ferns, until the round houses of the village suddenly appear among the hills. Their tall roofs reach almost down to the ground. Smoke rises from small openings, and in the mornings, thick mist hangs between the buildings, making the village feel almost like a memory rather than a real place. The local Manggarai community still lives largely according to traditional structures, although tourism has by now become part of everyday life. Even more surreal are the Kelimutu volcanic lakes in the east of the island. 3 crater lakes lie there side by side and often display completely different colors. Sometimes turquoise, sometimes dark green, occasionally almost black or rust red. The colors change constantly through volcanic minerals, so even locals never know exactly how the lakes will look on their next visit. Flores therefore feels less like a classic island, more like a landscape full of legends, mist, and volcanic memories. North of Flores, the island of Sulawesi reveals further facets of the country. The island alone could have warranted its own video. Here are our 2 favorites. In the highlands of Sulawesi lies Tanah Toraja, a remarkable region. It is known above all for its relationship with death. Here, life does not end abruptly. It remains part of everyday existence. The deceased are often kept in the house for months or even years, until enough money has been gathered for the elaborate funeral rituals. Families continue to speak with them, bring food into the room, and treat them not as the dead, but as relatives who are still present. When the ceremonies finally take place, they feel simultaneously festive and weighty. Hundreds of people gather among bamboo structures, traditional chants echo across the valleys, and water buffalo are sacrificed, not out of cruelty, but from deep-rooted belief. Particularly striking are the cliff graves. Over generations, burial chambers were carved into sheer rock faces. In front of them stand small wooden figures called Tau Tau, gazing motionlessly from the cliffs. Some look weathered by rain and time. Others appear almost alive in the diffuse mountain light. Tanah Toraja therefore leaves no easy feeling, rather a quiet awareness that some cultures do not suppress death, but place it at the very center of life. Far in the southeast of the island lies the Wakatobi National Park, one of the most species-rich marine areas on Earth. It is not only the beauty of the coral reefs that stands out here, but the enormous diversity beneath the water. Among the coral reefs, thousands of animal species live in close proximity. Manta rays glide through the open blue, sea turtles drift slowly over the reefs, and swarms of tropical fish occasionally darken the sunlight underwater. Hidden among them are tiny creatures only recognizable at second glance. Pygmy seahorses, luminous nudibranchs, and various octopus species such as the mimic octopus, which can imitate other sea creatures to protect itself. Even the yellow-lipped sea crate, a highly venomous black and white striped sea snake, glides silently between the corals. Wakatobi therefore feels less like a classic dive destination, more like a fragile world of water, light, and coral, beautiful, calm, and commanding of respect. North of Australia, an equally impressive island world reveals itself. As in Wakatobi, an incredibly diverse underwater landscape opens up in Raja Ampat. At first glance from the boat, the limestone islands appear almost unreal. Small green hills rise steeply from the sea, their rocks shaped by wind and water over thousands of years. Between them lie hidden lagoons, narrow water channels, and coral reefs that remain visible even from the air through the clear surface. Many come here to dive or snorkel, drifting through turquoise water and gliding past colorful coral walls, while thousands of tiny jellyfish drift almost weightlessly around them, harmless enough to swim right through. Even from the boat, Raja Ampat looks surreal. Beneath the water's surface, the shadows of enormous schools of fish pass by. Seabirds circle above the islands, and between the green rocks, this still, deep blue sea opens up again and again, looking less like an ordinary place on Earth and more like a hidden paradise. The Wayag Islands also belong to Raja Ampat and are perhaps the most iconic image of Indonesia, and at the same time, one of the country's quietest places. Small green limestone islands lie scattered there in pale blue water, each with its own shape, some barely larger than a single rock. From above, the island world looks almost random, as though the sea itself had drawn the landscape. Papua, finally, begins where Indonesia ends. While large parts of Indonesia have long since been modernized, some places here still feel as though from another era. In the highlands lie remote villages between mist and steep mountainsides. Some indigenous communities preserve their traditions to this day, not as a tourist attraction, but as part of their everyday life. The Asmat live in the southwestern part of Papua, in a landscape of mangrove swamps, dense rainforests, and brown river arms that stretch for kilometers through the lowlands. Many villages can still only be reached by boat. The water determines almost everything there: transport, food, trade, and the rhythm of daily life. The Asmat are particularly known for their wood carving. From enormous tree trunks, elaborate ancestral poles, masks and canoes are created, filled with spiral patterns and figures. For the Asmat, these carvings are not merely decoration, but are deeply connected to spirituality, ancestors, and ritual. The region still feels extremely remote, not because of individual sites, but because of this atmosphere of rivers, mist, drumming, and dense rainforest, where modern roads suddenly disappear and Papua feels more original than almost any other part of Indonesia. And perhaps no place in Indonesia shows this diversity more powerfully than Papua. Indonesia consists not merely of islands. It consists of hundreds of cultures, languages, landscapes, and ways of life, distributed across thousands of kilometers between volcanoes, rainforests, and open seas. Perhaps its beauty lies precisely in the fact that behind every horizon, the next completely different world has already begun. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed our journey through Indonesia today. If so, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss any more videos. Until next time.